She was abandoned on a blind date, broke, humiliated, and ready to disappear until the most dangerous man in the room decided she was worth noticing. The camera zooms in, city lights flicker, a storm brews in the distance. He wasn't just rich. He wasn't just powerful. He was the kind of man people whispered about but never dared to cross, the mafia boss who could destroy anyone with a single call. Cut to slow shots, his eyes, her trembling hands, the bill she couldn't pay. That night, their worlds collided, innocence met danger, and from that moment, neither of them would ever be the same. This is a story about love born in chaos, loyalty tested by fire, and the price you pay when your heart belongs to a man the world fears. So sit tight, because what started as a blind date turned into a war between love and power. Before we jump into the story, drop your flag or country in the chat. Let's see who's representing tonight. The restaurant shimmered like a jewel box, golden lights, white tablecloths, and the faint sound of violins drifting through the air. Every table around me was filled with couples leaning close, laughing softly, sipping expensive wine. And there I was. Alone. I glanced at my phone again. Still no message. No call. The clock on the wall mocked me, 8:42 p.m. 42 minutes late. My date, Evan, was supposed to be here at 8. He'd sounded charming in his messages. A friend of a friend. You'll love him, my roommate, Tessa, had said. He's rich, funny, and obsessed with good food. Now the only thing I was obsessed with was the bill I couldn't afford. I shifted in my seat, pretending to check my lipstick in my phone camera. The waiter passed again and gave me that polite, pitying look that said, "Oh." Another one stood up. "Would you like to order while you wait, miss?" he asked in that too perfect tone. "I'll just have a glass of water," I said quickly. He nodded. I could almost hear his thoughts. She's been here too long. My stomach twisted. I shouldn't have come. I couldn't even afford the drink I'd ordered earlier, a glass of white wine that had cost more than my daily lunch budget. I'd bought a new dress, too. Blue silk. My confidence dress. Right now, I just felt like an idiot in silk. I typed a message to Evan. "Hey, are you still coming?" No reply. I deleted it before sending. No point looking desperate. Tessa texted instead. "Did he show up yet?" "No." 3 dots. Then. What a jerk. "You should just leave." "Can't. I ordered wine. It's $18. "Oh no. I'm so sorry. I'd send you money, but I'm broke until tomorrow." I sighed. Same story every month. Rent, my dad's medical bills, food. My savings were long gone. I glanced around again, wishing I could disappear. That's when I saw him. He sat alone, a few booths away. Tall. Sharp suit. Black hair slicked back neatly. He wasn't just dressed well, he wore the space like he owned it. 2 men stood near his table earlier, talking to him in low voices, but now he sat alone, his hand wrapped around a glass of amber-colored liquid. Something about him didn't fit the place, or maybe he fit it too perfectly. His eyes lifted, dark, unreadable, and met mine. For 1 second, I forgot how to breathe. I looked away fast, pretending to scroll through my phone. My heart thudded. Why did he have to catch me staring? When I risked another glance, he was still watching me. Not in a creepy way, more like he was studying something rare. A butterfly trapped in a jar. Suddenly my phone buzzed again. I jumped so hard the wine glass tipped slightly. Tessa again. "Just walk out. You can't sit there forever." I typed back. "If I leave, they'll think I'm running from the bill." Her reply came instantly. "Then pretend to go to the bathroom and slip out a side door." Before I could answer, a deep voice spoke from beside me. "Leaving already?" I turned, and there he was. The man from across the room. Up close, he looked even more striking. Dark hair, strong jawline, eyes so deep brown they looked black in the dim light. "Sorry," I said, blinking up at him. He gestured slightly toward the empty chair across from me. "Your date isn't coming, is he?" Heat rushed to my face. "That's not your concern." "Perhaps not," he said calmly, his accent soft, European maybe. "But I couldn't help noticing you've been waiting for almost an hour. That's not something a man should let a woman do." His tone wasn't mocking, more like quiet observation. But I still felt exposed. I'm sure he's just delayed, I said, though even I didn't believe it. He tilted his head. You don't seem convinced. I tried to laugh it off. Maybe traffic was bad. He smiled faintly. Traffic doesn't last an hour. I opened my mouth, then closed it again. Look, I appreciate the concern, but I'm fine. He didn't leave. Instead, he nodded toward the empty chair. Then allow me to make you less fine. Join me for dinner. My eyes widened. What? He gestured to the waiter, who appeared instantly, almost like he'd been waiting for the cue. Marco, the man said. The lady will join me. Move her things to my table. Of course, Mr. Veyro, the waiter said smoothly. Mr. Veyro. The name sent a flicker of something through the air, respect, maybe fear. I didn't say I was joining you, I protested. Would you rather sit alone while everyone keeps staring? His dark eyes held mine. Or share a meal with someone who won't stand you up? I hesitated. My pride said no. My wallet said sit down before you go bankrupt. Fine, I said quietly. He extended his hand. Lucian Veyro. Aria Lane, I said, taking it. His hand was warm, strong, and steady, the kind of handshake that told you he always got what he wanted. Pleasure, Aria, he said softly. Let's not waste good wine on bad company. And just like that, I followed the stranger who had saved me from humiliation, not realizing I just stepped into the most dangerous night of my life. Lucian's booth was half hidden by tall burgundy curtains and a wall of glass that looked over the city lights. When I sat down, I noticed the details: crystal glasses, linen napkins, a bottle of wine already open, its scent warm and rich. You come here often? I asked, trying to sound casual. Often enough, he said, pouring me a glass. They know how to make people feel comfortable here. I took the wine, hesitated. Why did you invite me to join you? He shrugged lightly. Because I hate to see good people treated badly. And because you looked like you could use a rescue. I didn't need rescuing, I said quickly. Just bad luck, that's all. Ah. He smiled slightly. And how often does bad luck wear blue silk and sadness? I blinked. Excuse me? He leaned back, studying me. You hold yourself like someone who's used to surviving on her own. Not fragile, just tired. Am I wrong? My throat tightened. You talk like a psychologist. I talk like a man who notices things, he said. It's a habit. The waiter appeared again with 2 menus. Before I could open mine, Lucian handed them back. Bring the chef's tasting selection. And the 96 Brunello. Yes, sir. I stared at him. You just ordered for both of us. Do you mind? I'm not used to people deciding what I eat. Then you'll have to trust me, he said easily. You'll like it. I wasn't sure if it was confidence or arrogance, probably both. But somehow it didn't annoy me. It intrigued me. So, he said after a pause, tell me about yourself, Miss Lane. There's not much to tell, I said. I'm a translator. English, French, Mandarin. Mostly business stuff. Boring. Words are never boring, he said. They build empires and destroy them. You deal in power every day, you just don't realize it. I gave a small laugh. I translate meeting notes, not political speeches. He smiled, but there was something thoughtful behind it. Still, you have the gift of understanding what others cannot. That's valuable. I felt a flush of warmth. It had been a long time since anyone made my job sound meaningful. And you? I asked, trying to shift the focus. What do you do, Mr. Veyro? He swirled his glass, the deep red wine catching the light. I'm a businessman. That's very specific, I said dryly. He chuckled softly. I deal with trade, investments, negotiations. Sometimes, problems. What kind of problems? The kind that need to disappear quietly. I froze. The way he said it was calm, almost casual, but the meaning underneath made my stomach tighten. I wasn't sure if he was joking. Before I could reply, 2 men entered the restaurant, both in suits, both tense. They walked straight toward Lucian's booth but stopped a few feet away. One leaned close to him, whispering something in Italian. I caught a few words: ritardo, delay, pagamento, payment, problema. Lucian didn't react. He nodded once. Handle it, he said simply. The men left as silently as they came. I stared after them. Are you some kind of CEO or something? You could say that, he said. I manage people. Ensure they stay loyal. The word loyal carried a weight I couldn't quite place. The waiter arrived with the first course, delicate scallops resting on a bed of something creamy and beautiful. Lucian waited until I took a bite. The taste melted like butter on my tongue. Oh my God, I said before I could stop myself. He smiled, the first real one I'd seen. Good. Incredible. I hate sharing food with people who don't appreciate it, he said lightly, but there was something deeper in his eyes: satisfaction, maybe even relief. We ate quietly for a while. The conversation flowed easier with each glass of wine. So your date, Lucian said at last. He was a fool. Probably, I said with a laugh. But maybe it's for the best. I guess the universe had other plans. He raised his glass. To unexpected plans, then. Our glasses clinked softly. There was something almost magnetic about him. Every word, every movement felt deliberate. He wasn't just confident, he commanded the space around him. You're very quiet, I said finally. Even when you talk, it's like you're thinking 10 steps ahead. That's the only way to survive in my world, he said. And what world is that? His lips curved, but his eyes stayed serious. A world where mistakes cost more than money. That silenced me. I didn't know what to say, and part of me didn't want to know what he meant. I looked around. The restaurant was dim, the music soft. For a moment, it felt like we were the only two people in the room. You still haven't told me why you really invited me to your table, I said. He considered that. Because you intrigued me. Because I got stood up. No, he said quietly. Because you didn't fall apart when you did. I blinked, unsure how to respond. Most people break when embarrassed, he continued. They make scenes, storm out, hide their shame. You sat there with your chin high. You looked hurt, but proud. I like that. My cheeks warmed. You notice too much. It's how I stay alive, he said simply. The next course arrived, truffle risotto, rich and fragrant. He poured me another glass of wine. Eat, he said. You haven't eaten much today, have you? I frowned. How would you know that? He smiled faintly. You have the look of someone who skips meals to save money. Am I wrong? I froze. He wasn't wrong. I didn't like how easily he could read me. I'm not sure if you're observant or creepy, I said, half joking. Both, he replied, eyes gleaming. We laughed, but underneath it, my nerves hummed. Who was this man, really? He was charming, yes, but there was a shadow behind his charm. Something sharp and dangerous that made me want to know more even as my instincts screamed run. When the meal ended, I reached for my purse. I should at least pay for my wine. Lucian stopped me gently, his hand brushing mine. You won't insult me like that. I don't want to owe you. You don't, he said softly. You accepted an invitation. That's all. I hesitated, searching his face. There was no arrogance in his tone, just quiet certainty. Still, something about the way he said invitation felt heavier, like it meant more than dinner. He stood. Let me drive you home. That's not necessary. It is, he said. It's late. And I'd like to know you made it home safely. My first instinct was to refuse. My second was curiosity. Okay, I said finally. But no funny business. Funny business? He raised an eyebrow. Do I look like a clown to you? I smiled despite myself. Maybe a very expensive one. He chuckled, offering his arm. Then let's hope I'm worth the price. As we left the restaurant, I noticed the way people moved aside for him. The waiters nodded, the guards at the door straightened. Even the air seemed to shift around him. Outside, a sleek black car waited at the curb. The driver opened the door as if rehearsed. Miss Lane, Lucian said, holding the door for me. Trust me, just this once. I hesitated, then stepped inside. The leather smelled like cedar and something dark, like smoke and power. As the car glided away, the city lights blurred past the tinted glass. I looked at him. So, Mr. Vero. Should I be worried? He turned his head, eyes glittering in the dim light. Only if you plan to lie to me. Why would I lie? Everyone lies, he said simply. I just prefer to know when they do. I swallowed hard, not sure if he was joking. The rest of the ride passed in silence, heavy but not uncomfortable. When the car stopped in front of my apartment, he turned to me. Aria, he said quietly. You deserve better than men who waste your time. Thanks, I said softly. For dinner, and the rescue. He smiled faintly. You may not realize it yet, but you've just changed both our lives. Before I could ask what he meant, the door opened. The driver waited. Lucian's gaze held mine for one heartbeat too long. Good night, Miss Lane. I stepped out, my heart pounding. As the car drove away, I stood on the curb, clutching my purse, watching the taillights disappear into the night. Something told me I hadn't seen the last of Lucian Vero, the man who spoke like danger dressed in silk. And I wasn't sure if I was more afraid or fascinated. 3 days passed, but I couldn't stop thinking about him. Lucian Vero. The man who had appeared out of nowhere, paid for my dinner, and left me more confused than anyone I'd ever met. I went back to work at the translation agency, the same tiny grey cubicle, the same endless emails, and the same arrogant boss who took credit for everything I did. But even as I stared at contracts and spreadsheets, my mind drifted back to that night, to the way Lucian had looked at me, like he saw through every layer I tried to hide behind. I told myself it was just dinner. Nothing more. I didn't even know him. But when I got home late that night, there was a black envelope slipped under my apartment door. My name was written on it in smooth silver ink. Inside was a single ivory card, heavy, expensive, and completely blank except for a phone number written in neat handwriting. No name. No message. Just a number. I didn't need to guess who it was. 4 hours, I fought the urge to call. By midnight, curiosity won. I dialed, holding my breath. 1 ring. 2. Aria Lane, said that deep, familiar voice on the other end. Calm. Steady. Dangerous. I froze. You knew it was me? Of course. I could hear the faint smile in his tone. You're the only person who's been debating whether to call for 3 days. Were you watching me? I asked, half joking, half afraid. Not yet, he said smoothly. But I was beginning to think I should. I swallowed. Why send me your number? Because I don't like unfinished conversations, he said. Meet me tomorrow night. 8 o'clock. I'll text you the address. Why should I? Because you're curious, he replied simply. And because you don't want your life to stay the same. Then he hung up. The next night, I stood outside a small restaurant tucked between 2 glass towers downtown. It wasn't as flashy as the first one, but it looked even more exclusive. No sign. Just a dark wooden door and a single light above it. Inside, everything was warm gold and quiet music. The hostess smiled when she saw me. Miss Lane. Mr. Vero is expecting you. My pulse jumped. He was expecting me. She led me through the narrow hallway to a corner booth. Lucian stood as I approached, dressed in another dark suit that probably cost more than my rent for 6 months. You came, he said softly. Curiosity, I admitted, sitting down. He smiled faintly. It's a dangerous habit. So I've been told. The waiter appeared with 2 glasses of wine before I could even order. I didn't say I wanted this, I said. You liked it last time, Lucian replied. I remember. You remember a lot, don't you? It's my job to notice details. And what exactly is your job? I asked, deciding to be direct. Lucian leaned back, studying me. I manage international operations. Real estate, imports, finance, security. Security? I repeated, raising a brow. That sounds suspiciously vague. He chuckled. That's because it is. I stared at him. You're not going to tell me what you really do, are you? No, he said easily, because you already suspect. That sent a chill through me. You think I'd willingly meet a criminal? You tell me, he said quietly. You're here, aren't you? Before I could answer, the waiter arrived with dinner, pasta in creamy sauce, fresh bread, and truffle shavings so fragrant they made me dizzy. We ate mostly in silence, the air between us humming with something I couldn't name. Finally, he said, I have a proposition for you. I froze. What kind of proposition? A job. His eyes didn't leave mine. I need someone who speaks multiple languages. Someone I can trust. I laughed, though it came out shaky. You met me once. You can't possibly trust me. Trust is a choice, he said. And I choose it when I see something worth the risk. What would I be doing? I asked carefully. Translations. Negotiations. Occasionally sitting in on meetings to ensure clarity. That's it. For now. I narrowed my eyes. How much does it pay? Triple what you earn at your current job, he said without hesitation. I nearly choked on my wine. Triple? He nodded. Paid weekly. Cash if you prefer. Discretion guaranteed. I stared at him. That sounds illegal. It's not, he said smoothly. Language isn't illegal. It's what people use it for that becomes questionable. I leaned back, studying him. You really expect me to believe this is just business? He smiled slightly. I expect you to make a choice. You're intelligent enough to know what you're agreeing to and brave enough to decide for yourself. I'm not brave, I said softly. You are, he replied. You came here tonight knowing who I am. That takes courage. My chest tightened. And what if I say no? Then you'll walk out of here, go back to your grey office, your unpaid bills, your sleepless nights, and I'll wish you well. He paused, voice lowering. But something tells me you won't. Why? Because you're tired of surviving, he said. You want to live. His words hit harder than I wanted them to. Because he was right. He reached into his jacket and placed a folded contract on the table. 3 months. No commitment beyond that. You walk away whenever you want. I looked down at the crisp paper, my hands trembling slightly. This feels like a trap. Lucian smiled faintly. Only if you make it one. The waiter appeared again. Dessert, sir? Lucian shook his head. Just the check. Then, to me, think about it. Don't decide tonight. I nodded slowly. You always get what you want, don't you? Not always, he said quietly. But I try harder than most. When I left the restaurant that night, he didn't follow me. But when I got home, the same black car from before was parked across the street, engine off, lights dim. Watching. For a moment, I wondered if I was imagining it. Then the window lowered just enough for me to see the glint of eyes behind the glass. And I knew. Lucian Vero never left things to chance. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face, calm, unreadable, and terrifyingly sure of himself. The contract sat on my nightstand, untouched. I told myself I'd throw it away. Instead, I found myself reading every line under the morning light. It was normal. Too normal. Job description, language consulting and translation for business correspondence. Salary, $9,000 per month. Bonus, performance-based, paid upon completion of sensitive tasks. No mention of what sensitive tasks meant. No company name. No address. Just a signature line. By noon, I was pacing my living room. Tessa came out of her room, bleary-eyed. You've been walking in circles for an hour. What's going on? Remember that guy from the restaurant? I asked. Her eyes widened. The mysterious dinner savior? Yeah, him. He offered me a job. Her mouth dropped open. A job? You just met him. I know, but it's a lot of money, Tess. More than I've ever made in my life. She frowned. And you're considering it? I don't know. I hesitated. It could solve everything. Dad's bills. My debt. All of it. She sighed. Aria, guys like that don't hand out jobs. They hand out deals. And deals always have a price. I knew she was right. But the memory of Lucian's voice lingered. You're tired of surviving. You want to live. That night, As I was making instant noodles, my phone buzzed. Unknown number again. Lucian, you haven't decided. Me, still thinking. Lucian, meet me. 9 p.m. The address below. Me, why? Lucian, because you're not thinking clearly. You need to see my world before you choose. I stared at the screen. My world. Against every instinct, I texted back, fine. The car arrived right on time. Same driver, same sleek black vehicle. This time, Lucian wasn't inside. The driver only said, Mr. Vero will meet you there. We drove across the city until the buildings grew taller and the streets quieter. Finally, the car stopped in front of a high-rise with tinted glass windows that reflected the stars. The elevator inside required a key card. We went all the way to the top. When the doors opened, I stepped into another world. A vast penthouse spread before me, marble floors, glass walls, a skyline view so bright it looked unreal. The city glowed below like a sea of gold. Lucian stood by the window, hands in his pockets, the nightlight outlining his sharp profile. You came, he said without turning. You don't make it easy to say no. He smiled faintly. That's intentional. I walked closer, unable to hide my awe. You live here? Yes. It's quiet. Private. It's huge, I said softly. He glanced at me. You expected something smaller? I expected something less expensive. He poured 2 glasses of dark amber liquid and handed me one. Scotch. 25 years old. You'll like it. I don't usually drink with strangers, I said, taking it anyway. He raised a brow. Then we should stop being strangers. I took a sip. It burned, smooth and warm, like liquid fire. Lucian watched me for a moment. You want to know what I really do? Yes, I said quietly. If I'm going to work for you, I deserve to know. He walked to the window again. I own several businesses. Clubs, shipping companies, investments. But those are just the parts the government likes to see. And the parts they don't. He turned, meeting my gaze. I manage things that require influence. Negotiations that need to happen off the record. Protection that isn't found in law books. I stared at him. You're telling me you're in organized crime? I'm telling you I keep this city stable when its leaders fail, he said evenly. Call it what you want. I set my glass down. That's not exactly comforting. I didn't bring you here to comfort you, he said softly. I brought you here because I want you to see who I am and decide if you can handle it. And why me? I asked. Out of everyone you could hire? Because you're honest, he said simply. You don't fake politeness. You don't flatter me. You looked me in the eye when you should have been afraid. I am afraid, I admitted. Good, he said. Fear keeps people alive. The silence between us stretched. The city lights shimmered against the glass. Then his voice softened. I wasn't always like this, Arya. My father was a gambler. My mother worked herself to death to keep us afloat. When she died, I was 15. I made a promise that no one would ever have power over me again. Something in his tone made my chest ache. I'm sorry. He shrugged. Don't be. The world doesn't care about your story. Only your results. I took a deep breath. If I take this job, what happens if I want to leave? Then you leave, he said simply. No threats. No consequences. I don't cage people who came willingly. Somehow I don't believe that. He smiled slightly. Then you'll just have to see for yourself. He stepped closer, his presence suddenly filling the space between us. You could walk away right now, and I'd understand. But if you stay, things will change for you. Change how? You'll never have to beg for scraps again. You'll have money, respect, safety, all the things you've been denied. But you'll also have me watching you. Protecting you. Testing you. Testing me. To see how much truth you can handle, he said. I felt my pulse quicken. And if I can't? His eyes darkened. Then you don't belong in my world. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The only sound was the hum of the city outside. Then I said quietly, maybe I'm tired of pretending I belong in the other one. Lucian's expression shifted, something like approval flickered in his eyes. He reached into his jacket and handed me a pen. Then sign. I stared at it, the weight of everything pressing down on me. I should have said no. I should have run. Instead, I signed my name on the line. Lucian took the paper, folded it neatly, and slipped it into his pocket. "Welcome to my world, Miss Lane." "What now?" I asked. He smiled faintly. "Now, you learn the difference between surviving and ruling." The elevator doors slid shut behind me as I left, heart pounding so hard it hurt. Somewhere deep down, I knew I had just crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. And Lucian Veyro, the man who spoke in secrets and smiled like sin, had just opened the door to a world that would either save me or destroy me. The first week working for Lucian Veyro felt like stepping into a dream, one that shimmered with gold but hid blades beneath every smile. I wasn't translating boring company emails anymore. I was sitting in penthouses, boardrooms, and dark offices where men in expensive suits whispered deals that never made the news. Lucian's staff treated him like a king. They called him Signore Veyro. When he entered a room, conversations stopped. The air shifted. Even the ones who looked fearless avoided meeting his eyes for too long. And yet, when he spoke to me, his tone was always calm, sometimes even soft. "Aria," he'd say during meetings, "translate exactly what they mean. Not what they say." It was an order and a warning at once. And I obeyed. By the fourth day, I understood the pattern. Lucian ran his empire like a chessboard. Every word mattered. Every silence was a move. That night, after a long day at his office, he called me into his private suite upstairs. "Sit," he said, motioning to the dining table set for two. Candles. Wine. Music so quiet it was almost a whisper. "This looks formal," I said cautiously. "Dinner," he replied simply. "You've been working hard." I didn't know dinner with the boss was part of the job. He smiled faintly. "Only for exceptional employees." I sat across from him, my pulse loud in my ears. He poured the wine himself, his movements deliberate. "Why me?" I asked suddenly. "You could hire anyone." "Because you don't play games," he said, looking at me. "Most people talk to impress me. You listen. Maybe I'm just trying not to say the wrong thing. Then you already understand the first rule of survival." We ate in silence for a while, pasta, steak, something rich and delicious I couldn't even name. The entire time, I felt his gaze on me. Not predatory. Just focused. Like he was studying a puzzle he hadn't solved yet. "Finally," he said, "I read your file. You grew up in Brookhill?" "Yeah. Small town. Quiet. Too quiet. And your father?" The knife in my hand stilled. "His sick. Early onset dementia." Lucian's voice lowered. "You take care of him." "I try. The bills are bad, but he's all I have." Something flickered in his eyes, understanding, maybe even respect. "You're a good daughter. Or just desperate," I muttered. He leaned back in his chair. "Desperation makes people dangerous. But in your case, it makes you strong." I blinked. "You talk like you've studied me." "I study everything I invest in." "Invest?" I said sharply. "Is that what I am to you? An investment?" He didn't flinch. "Yes. You're worth more than you realize." My chest tightened. "And what happens if your investment fails?" His answer came without hesitation. "Then I fix it. Or remove the problem." A chill ran down my spine. "You mean fire me?" "Something like that," he said, but his tone didn't sound like he was talking about jobs. I looked at him across the candlelight, dark suit, dark eyes, a face that could be carved from marble. Everything about him screamed control, yet something about me seemed to test his patience. "Why do I feel like there's more to this than work?" I asked quietly. He didn't deny it. "Because you're right." "Then what do you want from me?" His gaze held mine, steady and unblinking. "Honesty. Loyalty. And maybe one day, something more." I swallowed hard. "You barely know me." "I know enough," he said softly. "You walk into dangerous rooms and still hold your ground. You don't bend, even when you're afraid. That's rare." "You think I'm brave," I whispered. He shook his head. I think you're real. And in my world, that's the bravest thing of all. I didn't know how to respond. The silence stretched until the music faded and the city's glow filled the room. Then he said something that froze me in place. Come with me. There's something I want to show you. The elevator opened to a private rooftop. The city glittered below, endless lights against the black sky. Lucian walked to the edge, his hands in his pockets. This is where I go to think, he said. Every deal I make, every decision, it starts up here. I stepped beside him. The wind lifted my hair, cool against my neck. You own all of this. I control what I need to, he said. Owning things is temporary. Control lasts longer. I glanced at him. You sound like you don't trust anyone. He smiled faintly. I trust a few people. You might become one of them. Or you'll regret it, I said quietly. He turned to me, eyes dark as midnight. Then we'll both regret it together. Something in his tone pulled the air out of my lungs. He took a slow step forward, close enough that I could feel his warmth, smell his cologne, spice, smoke, and danger. I don't know what this is, I whispered. Neither do I, he admitted. But it's been a long time since something or someone made me curious. The space between us felt like it could explode. And then, slowly, he reached out and touched my chin, tilting my face up. Tell me to stop, he said. I didn't. His lips brushed mine, soft, slow, and deliberate, like a promise and a warning wrapped in one breath. The world tilted. Every wall I'd built cracked. When he finally pulled back, he said in a voice barely above a whisper, I don't mix business with pleasure. Don't make me break that rule. I stepped away, breathless. Then don't tempt me to. He smiled, that unreadable half-smile again. Too late. The next morning, I told myself it meant nothing. Just a moment. Just curiosity. But deep down, I knew it was the beginning of something I couldn't stop. Lucian's world didn't look dangerous at first glance. It looked beautiful. Polished cars, silent hallways, elegant offices that smelled of money and power. But underneath that shine was something colder, something that hummed with quiet violence. Every morning, men in dark suits came to see him. Some left smiling. Others left pale, hands shaking. I sat in the corner during meetings, translating documents, pretending not to notice the way his business partners avoided his gaze. The first time I translated a foreign contract for him, I realized halfway through that it wasn't about real estate at all. It was about territory, people, power, control. Lucian caught my expression. Something wrong? He asked without looking up. No, I said quickly. Just trying to get the details right. Good, he said, his tone sharp as glass. Details keep us alive. After the meeting, I found him in his office, pouring a drink. You knew what that contract was about, didn't you? I asked. He didn't look up. Of course. You let me read it. Yes. I wanted to see how you'd react. I stared at him. You were testing me. He nodded once. You passed. I wasn't trying to pass, I snapped. I just didn't want to die. Lucian's gaze lifted, calm and unreadable. You won't. Not while you're under my protection. That's not comforting, I said. That's terrifying. He walked around his desk, stopping in front of me. You think I'm a monster. I think you do terrible things and tell yourself it's business. He studied me for a long moment. Then, quietly, you're not wrong. I didn't know whether to leave or stay. But before I could move, his phone buzzed. He answered, his voice low and sharp in Italian. I couldn't understand every word, but I caught enough to know something was wrong. Problema. Tradimento. Problem. Betrayal. When he hung up, the calm in his face was gone. What happened? I asked carefully. He turned to me, eyes darker than I'd ever seen them. Someone's been asking about you. My heart stilled. Me? He nodded. A rival family. They think you're leverage. Leverage for what? For me, he said simply. They know you work for me now. They assume you're important. I'm not, I said quickly. You know that. He stepped closer. To them, it doesn't matter what you are. Only what they can make me believe. I tried to steady my voice. So what happens now? You don't leave this building without security, he said. Not until I handle it. Handle it how? I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted the answer. Lucian's expression didn't change. The same way I handle everything else. That night, I stayed late at the office. 2 guards followed me everywhere. I hated it, but fear has a way of silencing pride. At one point, I looked out the window at the glittering city and thought about how far I'd fallen, or maybe risen. I didn't know anymore. That's when I saw him, Lucian, outside in the rain, talking to 3 men near the street. I couldn't hear what they said, but the tension was clear. One of the men gestured too sharply. Lucian didn't raise his voice, didn't even move much. But then one of his guards grabbed the man by the collar, dragging him toward a black car. My stomach twisted. When Lucian returned inside, his hair wet, his face expressionless, I couldn't stop myself. What did you do? He looked at me quietly. I reminded them what happens when people threaten what's mine. I'm not yours, I said before I could stop myself. He stepped close enough that I felt his breath. Maybe not yet. But they don't need to know that. The air between us pulsed, dangerous, electric. Why risk so much for me? I asked. He studied my face. Because they noticed you before I was ready for them to. Ready for what? For you to understand the cost of standing next to me. I stared at him, my voice barely a whisper. And what's that cost? He reached out, brushing a strand of hair from my face. Peace, he said softly. You'll never have it again. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every sound felt like footsteps. Every shadow looked like a threat. But beneath the fear was something worse, something I didn't want to admit. I didn't want to run. Because even though I was terrified of Lucian Veyro, part of me was already his. The next morning, the world outside looked calm, but everything inside me felt like a storm. I couldn't unsee what I'd witnessed the night before, Lucian in the rain, his quiet fury, the way one gesture from him made grown men shake. And yet, here I was, back in his office. Sitting at my desk, typing notes from a meeting about shipment clearances, pretending not to notice the armed guards standing outside. Every few minutes, my phone buzzed with messages from my best friend, Tessa. Tessa, you okay? You've been MIA for days. Me, I'm fine. Just busy. Tessa, busy or hiding something? Me, both. I wanted to tell her the truth, but how could I explain this? That I'd stepped into a world built on secrets, and that the man who terrified half the city had also kissed me under the stars. When the meeting ended, Lucian appeared at my desk. Walk with me, he said. I followed him through the building, past walls of glass and chrome. Everyone moved aside when we passed, eyes down, no one daring to speak unless he did first. He stopped at a private elevator and gestured for me to enter. We're going somewhere quiet. The elevator doors closed with a soft hiss. I could feel the weight of his silence pressing around us. Where are we going? I asked. To show you why I don't take risks with the people I care about, he said, his voice low. The doors opened to the underground garage, dim lights, polished floors, rows of black cars that gleamed like obsidian. We walked until we reached one at the far end. Lucian stopped beside it and opened the trunk. Inside was a sleek metal case. He opened it, not weapons, not money, but photos. Dozens of them. Me, outside my apartment. Me walking to work. Me at a cafe with Tessa. My blood went cold. What is this? Proof, Lucian said quietly. You've been followed for 2 weeks. I stared at the pictures, my hands trembling. You knew about this and didn't tell me. If I told you, he said, you would have panicked. Panic makes people careless. I needed to know who was watching before I made a move. Who? He shut the case. Rival family. They think I have a weakness. I forced a laugh that came out shaky. Me? I'm not a weakness. Lucian's eyes met mine. That's exactly what makes you one. Before I could reply, one of his guards ran toward us. Signore. We found one of them. Outside the south exit. Lucian's entire expression changed, sharp, cold, deadly. Take me there. He looked back at me. Stay here. Don't move. No matter what you hear. I nodded, though my legs were shaking. The next few minutes felt like a blur. I heard shouting echo down the hallway, the sound of a door slamming open, boots on concrete. Then silence. Lucian returned alone, his coat slightly out of place, his expression unreadable. Is it over? I whispered. For now, he said. What did you do? He looked at me for a long moment. You don't want to know. Maybe he was right. But I needed to say something, to break the silence that pressed like glass between us. You can't protect me forever, I said quietly. You have enemies. If they want to hurt you, they'll find a way. Lucian stepped close, his voice dropping to a near whisper. Then they'll have to go through me first. His certainty scared me more than any threat ever could. That night, he insisted on driving me home himself. The city lights flickered past the car windows like reflections of another life. You shouldn't go back to your apartment, he said suddenly. Why not? It's not safe. They know where you live. I turned to face him. And where do you suggest I stay? With you. He didn't answer. He didn't need to. The look in his eyes said everything. When we arrived, I saw that the door to my apartment building was slightly ajar. My stomach dropped. Lucian's hand was on me before I could move. Stay here. He got out first, his steps silent, deliberate. 2 of his men followed. I watched from the car as they disappeared inside the building. Minutes passed. Then Lucian returned, his expression hard. They were inside, he said. Your things are untouched, but it was a message. A message? He nodded. They want you to feel unsafe. They want you scared. Well, I said bitterly, congratulations to them. It worked. Lucian's jaw tightened. You're coming with me. I won't argue. I wanted to protest, but fear drowned out pride. Just for a night, I whispered. He didn't reply. He didn't have to. His penthouse looked different this time, colder, sharper, more like a fortress than a home. He showed me to a guest room, though everything about the room screamed prepared. Soft sheets. Clothes in my size. Even a book I'd once mentioned liking on his shelf. You planned this, I said quietly. I plan for everything, he replied. Go to sleep, Arya. I'll handle the rest. I lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling, wondering when protection turned into captivity. But when I finally drifted off, I dreamed of him, standing in the rain, his hand outstretched, whispering words I couldn't quite hear. The next morning, I woke to sunlight and silence. The penthouse was eerily calm, the kind of quiet that didn't feel peaceful, it felt watched. I found Lucian in the living room, drinking coffee and staring at the skyline. He looked like he hadn't slept at all. Morning, I said softly. He glanced at me, eyes softer than I expected. You're safe. That's what matters. Safe, I repeated. That's what you call this. He studied me for a moment. Would you rather be dead? Don't talk like that, I snapped. I talk like someone who deals in reality, he said. Not fantasy. I crossed my arms. Then here's reality. I can't live like this. Hiding. Guarded. Watched every minute. Lucian set his cup down. Then don't hide. Learn. Learn what? How to survive my world. I almost laughed. You think I want to be part of your world? You already are, he said simply. The moment they saw you with me, you became part of it. Whether you want to or not. That truth cut deep because I knew it was real. He stepped closer. Come with me today. I have business downtown. You'll translate. Why? So they know you're not afraid. And that's how I found myself sitting beside Lucian in a car that looked more like a moving bank vault, heading to a meeting I didn't understand. The meeting was held in a luxury hotel suite, guarded by men with earpieces and silent eyes. Inside, 2 men waited, both dressed in dark suits, both radiating the same polished menace Lucian carried so easily. They greeted him in Italian. I translated quietly, my voice steady even though my hands trembled under the table. Halfway through, one of the men made a joke about me, about Lucian's new toy. Lucian didn't move, didn't even blink. Then, in perfect Italian, he said something that made the room go silent. The man's face turned white. Afterward, I asked what he'd said. Nothing important, Lucian replied calmly. Just a reminder to watch his tongue. That wasn't nothing, I said. He looked like he'd seen a ghost. Lucian turned to me. Because he did. I stared at him. What are you trying to prove? That no one disrespects what's under my protection. Lucian. He cut me off. Don't argue. In my world, respect keeps you alive. When we returned to the penthouse that evening, the tension between us was thicker than ever. You didn't have to scare him like that, I said. He insulted you. I don't need you to fight my battles. He turned sharply. You think they see you as a person? They see you as leverage. If I don't draw lines, they'll cross them. You can't control everything, I said. His eyes burned into mine. Watch me. The silence stretched, hot and heavy, filled with everything neither of us could say. Then he took a step closer. You think I enjoy this? That I like turning into someone you should fear? I don't know what you like anymore, I whispered. He exhaled, closing the distance between us. I like peace. But peace doesn't last where I live. I looked up at him, every nerve in my body trembling. Then why bring me into it? He brushed his thumb along my jaw, slow and deliberate. Because you remind me what peace feels like. And before I could stop myself, I leaned into his touch. His lips found mine again, this time not careful, hungry, desperate, like the world outside didn't exist. Every thought, every fear, burned away until there was only heat and the sound of my heart pounding against his chest. When he finally pulled back, his voice was raw. You have no idea what you do to me. Then don't do this, I whispered. You said you don't mix business and pleasure. He smiled, but it wasn't the charming kind, it was broken, dangerous. I've never been good at following my own rules. Later that night, after he fell asleep on the couch, I stood by the window, staring at the city lights. Was this protection or a golden cage? Was he saving me, or was I just another possession he couldn't let go of? I didn't know. But when I turned and looked at him, the man everyone feared, sleeping like a wounded god, my heart twisted painfully. Because even if I wanted to leave, I knew I wouldn't. Not yet. The following days were heavy with silence. Lucian worked longer hours, his phone never stopped buzzing, and the guards outside doubled. Something was shifting, something dark. He didn't tell me what was going on, but I could feel it. Everyone in his circle moved like they were walking on glass. Conversations stopped when I entered a room. Eyes followed me in hallways. At first, I thought it was just paranoia. But then the whispers started. She's new. She's close to him. She'll ruin everything. By the third day, I couldn't ignore it anymore. I found Lucian in his office, staring out the window with a glass of whiskey in his hand. The city reflected in the glass like fire. You need to tell me what's happening, I said. He didn't look at me. It's nothing you need to worry about. Don't lie to me. Finally, he turned. Someone's leaking information. Deals, routes, names. And they're using your name to do it. I froze. What? That's impossible. 2 of my accounts were compromised through documents you handled, he said. Emails came from your Access ID. That's not me, I said quickly. You know I wouldn't. I know what the evidence says, he interrupted quietly. The way he looked at me, calm, too calm, hurt worse than if he'd shouted. You think I'd betray you? I asked, voice breaking. He walked around the desk, stopping in front of me. I want to believe you didn't. But belief doesn't erase risk. And in my world, risk gets people killed. My throat tightened. So what are you going to do? He studied me. I'm giving you a chance to explain. That's more than most people get. Lucian, someone's framing me. You have to know that. Maybe, he said softly. Or maybe I wanted to trust someone I shouldn't have. The words cut deep. I don't have proof yet, he continued, but until I do, you don't leave this building. No meetings. No calls. I took a shaky breath. You're locking me up. Protecting you, he said. From who? You. He didn't answer. I spent the rest of the day in the guest room that now felt like a gilded prison. Guards stood outside. My phone was gone. My laptop password didn't work anymore. By midnight, I couldn't take it. I slipped out, walking quietly down the hall to his office. The door was half open, light spilling out. Lucian sat at his desk, speaking with one of his men. "She's the weak link," the man said. "You should have never brought her in." Lucian's voice was low, dangerous. "Careful, Marco. She's costing you everything," the man pressed. "Half the city's saying she's your downfall." There was a pause. Then Lucian said, "If I find out she betrayed me, I'll handle it myself." My chest felt like it was caving in. I turned away before they saw me and ran back to my room. By dawn, I'd made a decision. I couldn't stay here, not if everyone thought I was guilty. Not if Lucian looked at me like I was both his and his mistake. I packed my things, slipped out while the guards changed shifts, and ran. I didn't get far. By noon, my photo was everywhere: emails, messages, calls. My ID was flagged. My account's frozen. Lucian hadn't called. He hadn't come for me. Maybe he believed I was guilty after all. I sat in a cheap motel, staring at the flickering TV, trying not to cry. Then the news alert came on: explosion outside Vero Enterprises headquarters. Multiple injured. My heart stopped. Without thinking, I grabbed my bag and ran. When I got to the street, smoke filled the air. Sirens screamed. Lucian's building loomed above, its lower floor windows shattered. I pushed through the crowd until a familiar voice called my name. "Aria." Lucian stood near a black car, jacket covered in dust, a thin cut across his cheek. The second our eyes met, all the anger, all the confusion disappeared. I ran to him. He caught me by the shoulders. "What the hell are you doing here?" "I saw the news," I gasped. "I thought." His grip softened. "You shouldn't have come. It's not safe." "Was it them?" I asked. He nodded grimly. "They wanted to send a message. That they can reach me anywhere. And the leak." He looked away. "It wasn't you." Relief hit me like air after drowning. "Then who?" Before I could finish, a car screeched to a halt nearby. Gunfire shattered the air. Lucian shoved me down, covering me with his body. His guards returned fire. Screams echoed through the street. It felt like forever before it stopped. When Lucian finally pulled me up, his face was all steel again. "Get in the car. Now." "Lucian." He grabbed my chin gently, forcing my eyes to his. "Don't argue. You want to live? Do what I say." I did. Back at the penthouse, he cleaned the cut on his cheek while I stood shaking by the window. "You could have been killed," I said. "So could you," he replied. "Then stop doing this. Stop playing God with people's lives." He turned to me, eyes blazing. "You think I enjoy this? You think I wanted you involved? Then why keep me here?" "Because I can't lose you," he shouted. The room fell silent. Neither of us moved. Then he whispered, "Every time I think I can keep you safe, something proves me wrong." I stepped closer, my voice barely a breath. "You don't have to protect me. You just have to trust me." He looked at me for a long time, then brushed his thumb against my cheek. "That's the one thing I don't know how to do anymore." That night, I couldn't sleep. Lucian stood by the window for hours, silent, staring out at the city like it was daring him to blink. I watched him from the shadows, realizing something I didn't want to admit. He wasn't invincible. He was exhausted. Haunted. Human. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid of him. I was afraid for him. Morning came with sirens and news reports. The explosion had killed 3 of Lucian's men. His name was everywhere, whispered in fear, printed in headlines. The King of the Shadows under fire. He hadn't slept. He sat on the couch, head in his hands. I brought him coffee, even though his guards tried to stop me. "He doesn't need distractions," one said. "Then tell him I said he does," I snapped. When I set the cup down, Lucian looked up at me with bloodshot eyes. "You shouldn't be here." "I'm not leaving." He sighed. "You're too stubborn for your own good. And you're too proud for yours." That made him laugh softly, a real laugh, the first I'd heard in days. Who framed me? I asked. He hesitated. Marco. My own man. He took payments from the rival family and used your access to send data. The name hit hard. Marco, the man who'd said I was the weak link. Where is he now? Lucian's expression turned to ice. Gone. Gone as in fired? Gone as in gone. I looked at him, horrified. You killed him? He didn't answer. He didn't have to. I sank onto the couch. You scare me sometimes. You should, he said quietly. I scare myself. We sat in silence for a while. Then he said, I can send you away. Somewhere safe. New name, new life. They'll never find you. And what about you? I'll handle the rest. I shook my head. No. I'm not running. He met my eyes, something fierce burning behind them. You think this is a choice? It's my life, I said. I decide when to run. For the first time, he looked almost proud. You really don't know when to quit. Neither do you. He smiled faintly. Maybe that's why we fit. That afternoon, while he handled meetings, I wandered through his office. I wasn't supposed to touch anything, but curiosity got the better of me. Behind a shelf, I found a small box, wooden, old, with initials carved into the lid, LV. Inside were photos. A woman with gentle eyes and dark hair. A boy, maybe 10, smiling beside her. I realized it was Lucian and his mother. When he entered the room, I nearly dropped the box. I'm sorry, I shouldn't. It's fine, he said softly. She's the reason I started all this. The world broke her. I promised it wouldn't break me. You built an empire to keep a promise, I said. I built it to make sure no one ever made me feel helpless again. Does it work? He looked at me, something raw in his eyes. It used to. That night, we sat on the balcony overlooking the city. The air smelled like rain. I don't think I belong in your world, I said quietly. You don't, he said, not unkindly. But I keep bringing you back anyway. Why? He turned to me. Because when you look at me, you don't see what everyone else sees. You don't flinch. Maybe I should. Maybe, he said, leaning closer, but you don't. I didn't move as he brushed his hand along my neck, his touch soft but trembling. You make me forget what I am, he whispered. And what's that? Danger, he said simply. Pure, unfixable danger. I smiled faintly. Then maybe I'm the fool who isn't scared enough. His lips curved into a sad smile. Or maybe you're the only one who ever should have been. He kissed me then, deep and desperate, like he needed to prove something neither of us could name. The rain started halfway through, cool drops against heated skin. When he finally pulled back, breathless, he whispered, you should go inside. Why? Because if you stay, I won't let you leave again. I met his gaze, heart pounding. Then don't. For the first time, Lucian Vero, the man who ruled the city with fear, looked powerless. He took my hand and pulled me close, his voice breaking as he whispered, you have no idea what you've done to me, Arya. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I never would. But in that moment, as the storm raged outside, I didn't care. Because for the first time, I wasn't just surviving his world. I was a part of it. The following days blurred into chaos. Lucian's world, once so carefully controlled, began to unravel thread by thread. Every hour brought new reports, shipments intercepted, safe houses burned, allies disappearing without warning. He didn't sleep anymore. He barely ate. He paced, barked orders, and read files until dawn. When I tried to speak to him, he would only say, later. But later never came. I started to see the toll it was taking on him. The lines around his eyes deepened. The calm, controlled man I'd met at the restaurant was fading, replaced by someone harder, someone running out of patience. The night it all came to a head, I found him in the office, standing over a large table covered with maps and papers. They've hit another convoy, one of his lieutenants said. 3 men down. Lucian didn't react, just stared at the red dots on the map. Which route? The eastern port. Lucian's jaw tightened. Close it. No one moves through there again. The man hesitated. But that's... Close it, Lucian snapped, his voice sharp enough to cut. When the man left, Lucian leaned on the table, his knuckles white. Lucian, I said softly, stepping closer. He didn't look at me. They're choking my empire piece by piece. Then fight back. He finally met my eyes. Fight back. His voice was low, tired. Arya, I've been fighting my whole life. I'm running out of things to lose. I swallowed hard. You haven't lost everything yet. He studied me for a long moment, then said, no. Not yet. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded paper. Come here. I stepped closer. He handed it to me. It was a passport, fake, but flawless, with my photo, a different name, and a ticket to another country. What is this? I asked. Your escape, he said quietly. Leave tonight. Start over. Before this war gets worse. I stared at him, shocked. You're sending me away. I'm saving you. No, I said, shaking my head. I'm not running again. Not this time. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. You think if you get me out of here, you can fight without distraction. But I'm not your weakness, Lucian. I'm your choice. His eyes darkened. You think this is about choice? If they find you, they'll use you against me. They'll torture you to get to me. Is that what you want? I stepped forward, anger and fear mixing in my chest. I want you to stop deciding for me. Silence hung between us. Then he whispered, you'll die in this war. Then I'll die beside you. That broke something in him. He grabbed me, pulled me close, his voice rough. Don't say that. Don't you dare say that. I touched his face, feeling the tension in his jaw. Then let me help. Please. Let me do something. His grip loosened. Help how? I'm a translator. I can read the files, the messages. You said yourself words are power. Let me use them. He hesitated. Then, finally, he nodded. Fine. But you stay by my side. Every second. We spent the next 2 days in his command room, screens glowing, papers spread everywhere. His men brought in intercepted communications, mostly in code. I translated what I could, stringing together clues, names, and patterns. By the second night, I found something, a string of encrypted coordinates hidden in what looked like a business ledger. Lucian, I said, pushing the paper toward him. Look. These aren't trade routes. They're meeting points. He studied it, realization flashing in his eyes. They're planning an ambush. Where? He pointed at one of the marks. Here. The docks. Tomorrow night. He grabbed his coat, already in motion. You did good, Arya. I'm coming with you. No. Yes, I said firmly. You said I stay by your side. I'm holding you to that. He stared at me for a moment, then exhaled. You'll stay in the car. You don't move until I say. Deal. The docks at night were a graveyard of steel and shadow. Fog curled around the ships like ghosts. Men with guns moved silently through the darkness, taking their positions. Lucian stood at the front, calm as ever, his coat flapping in the cold wind. I sat in the car nearby, heart racing, clutching my phone like a lifeline. From the distance, headlights appeared, 2 black SUVs rolling down the pier. Lucian's men tensed. When the doors opened, the rival boss stepped out tall, scarred, eyes cold. He smiled like death. I was wondering when you'd come, Lucian said, voice steady. Had to see the legend before he falls, the man replied. Legends don't fall, Lucian said. They burn brighter. Then everything exploded, noise, light, chaos. Gunfire cracked through the fog. I ducked down, screaming as bullets shattered the windshield. Lucian. I cried, fumbling for the door. Stay down, one of his guards shouted, pushing me to the floor. The fight was brutal and fast. Lucian moved like a shadow, precise, lethal. The rival boss fired once, missed, and before he could reload, Lucian was on him. The last thing I saw before the smoke cleared was Lucian dragging him to the edge of the dock, whispering something cold and final before letting him fall into the dark water below. When the shooting stopped, I ran to him. Lucian, are you hurt? He turned, blood on his sleeve but calm as ever. It's over. You're bleeding. It's not mine. I swallowed hard. You killed him. He would have killed me first. He looked around at the bodies, the smoke, the broken crates. Then his voice softened. It ends tonight. But something in his eyes told me he didn't believe that. That night, back at the penthouse, Lucian collapsed on the couch. I sat beside him, taking his hand. You should rest. He smiled faintly. You sound like my mother. Maybe she was right. She used to say peace is just the space between storms, he said quietly. Maybe that's all this is. I leaned my head on his shoulder. Then let's enjoy the space while it lasts. He kissed the top of my head. You shouldn't be here. I know, I said softly. But I am. And for the first time in days, he closed his eyes. The next morning was too quiet. The city outside looked normal, but the silence in the penthouse felt wrong, heavy, waiting. Lucian was still asleep when my phone buzzed. An unknown number. One message: we have your father. Come alone. My heart stopped. I ran to Lucian's office, the message shaking in my hands. They have him, I said. He read it once, jaw tightening. When? I don't know. The message came just now. He grabbed his phone, barking orders. Find where this came from. They said come alone, I said. And you won't, he said flatly. They're baiting you. I have to, I whispered. If they hurt him. Lucian grabbed my arm. Listen to me. This is what they want. They couldn't break me, so they're coming through you. I don't care. He's my father. He stared at me for a long moment, then cursed under his breath. Fine. But I'm coming. The address led us to an abandoned warehouse near the docks. Lucian's men spread out, surrounding the perimeter. Stay behind me, he said. Inside, the air smelled of oil and salt. My father sat tied to a chair in the middle of the floor, dazed but alive. Relief flooded me. Dad. I ran forward, but Lucian's arm shot out, stopping me. Wait, he murmured. Then, from the shadows, a voice said, You came. Good. The rival's second-in-command stepped out, gun in hand. His smile was cold. Your boyfriend's good at cleaning up messes, but everyone slips eventually. Lucian moved in front of me, voice deadly calm. Let him go. Trade, the man said. You for him. Lucian's lips curved into something between amusement and rage. You think I'd make trades? The man raised the gun. Then you both die. Everything happened at once, a flash, a shout, the sound of gunfire exploding through the air. Lucian shoved me to the ground, covering me with his body. When the smoke cleared, the man was on the floor, his gun clattering beside him. Lucian stood over him, bleeding from his shoulder, eyes burning. I scrambled to my father, cutting the ropes. Dad, can you hear me? He nodded weakly. You shouldn't have come. Lucian staggered but didn't fall. We need to go. Now. Two of his men rushed in, grabbing my father and leading him out. I turned to Lucian, panic rising. You're hurt. He waved me off. It's nothing. Lucian. Arya, he said, voice rough, if I fall, don't look back. Promise me. No, I grabbed his hand. We leave together. He smiled faintly, blood on his lips. You're impossible. Then stop trying to change me. We made it to the car just as sirens wailed in the distance. Lucian slumped against the seat, pale but still managing that same infuriating calm. Hold on, I said, pressing a cloth to his shoulder. He winced but chuckled softly. You'd make a terrible nurse. Shut up, I said, tears burning my eyes. You're losing blood. He caught my wrist. Arya. What? If something happens to me. Don't you dare finish that sentence, I snapped. He smiled weakly. Always arguing. Always living, I whispered. We made it back to the penthouse just before dawn. The doctor arrived within minutes, patching the wound. It wasn't fatal, but it was close. When the doctor left, I sat by his bed, holding his hand. His skin was warm, his breathing slow but steady. You shouldn't have come for me, he murmured, eyes half open. I told you, I said softly. We leave together. He smiled, then drifted back to sleep. Hours passed. The sun rose, filling the room with gold. I looked at him, the man who terrified a city yet risked everything for me, and realized something I'd been too afraid to name. I loved him. Not the version everyone whispered about. Not the legend or the monster. But the man who'd given me safety when I had nothing, who'd stood between me and death, who'd taught me that strength didn't always look gentle. Lucian stirred, his eyes opening slowly. "You're still here. I'm not going anywhere." He reached for my hand. "You realize this changes everything." I nodded. "Good. I'm tired of everything staying the same." He smiled faintly, the first real smile I'd seen in weeks. "Then maybe it's time I start living, too." The city outside still burned, the war wasn't over, but for that one moment, there was peace. Not the kind you find in silence, the kind you fight for, bleed for, and finally hold. And as I sat there, his hand in mine, I knew one thing for certain. No matter what came next, I wouldn't walk away from Lucian Veyro. Not even when the world told me to run. Lucian's recovery was slow, but his spirit never seemed to rest. Even while lying on his bed, with his arm in a sling and stitches running along his shoulder, he still made calls, issued orders, and met with his men as if nothing had changed. Every time I tried to make him stop, he'd give me that same half-smile and say, if I pause too long, the wolves start to circle. I hated it, watching him push himself when he could barely stay upright, but I also understood. This was who he was. He didn't know how to stop fighting. After the doctor left one evening, I sat beside him, pressing a new bandage over his wound. "You need to rest, Lucian," I said softly. He looked at me, eyes dark under the faint light. "Rest is a luxury I can't afford. You've earned it." He let out a tired laugh. "In my world, there's no such thing as earning peace. You have to take it. And when you do, someone else loses theirs." I didn't know what to say, so I just kept working quietly. His skin was warm beneath my fingers, his breath shallow. When I finished, he caught my wrist. "Stay," he said. "I'm not leaving. I mean it. When I wake up, I want to see you still here." I nodded. "I'll be here." He drifted to sleep, his hand still holding mine. For hours, I watched him, this man who had become the center of my world, who carried an empire on his shoulders but still looked at me like I was something sacred. Days passed. Lucian regained his strength, and life in the penthouse returned to its strange rhythm of danger and routine. His men came and went with updates. The rival families had gone quiet since the ambush. Too quiet. "Something's coming," Lucian muttered one morning, reading through reports. "Maybe they're scared," I said hopefully. He gave me a look that almost made me smile. "Fear doesn't make people stop. It makes them plan better." I knew he was right. And yet, part of me wanted to believe the worst was over. But peace never lasted long in his world. That night, while he met with his advisors, I stood on the balcony, watching the city lights shimmer below. The air was heavy, thick with the promise of rain. I didn't hear the door open until someone spoke behind me. "You shouldn't be out here alone." It was Marco's replacement, Luca, a tall, quiet man who always looked like he was waiting for orders. "I'm fine," I said. He stepped closer. "Lucian asked me to keep an eye on you." I sighed. "I don't need a babysitter." He hesitated. "Maybe not. But you need to know something." I turned. "What is it?" "There's talk," he said carefully. "People in the lower ranks, they think Lucian's changing. That you're changing him. They don't like it." "Changing him how?" "Making him soft," Luca said. "Less ruthless. Less predictable." I frowned. "Isn't that a good thing?" "Not in this business. They respect fear. If they stop fearing him, they'll turn on him." My stomach twisted. "Are you saying someone's planning to betray him?" "I'm saying," Luca lowered his voice. "He's trusted the wrong people before. Don't let him do it again." Before I could ask more, the door opened and Lucian stepped out. Luca nodded and left silently. Lucian walked up behind me, his hand brushing my back. "You look like you just saw a ghost." I forced a smile. "Just thinking." "About what?" "About how you can trust anyone in this world." He studied me for a moment. You can't. That's why I keep my circle small. And what happens if someone inside that circle turns? I asked. He didn't answer. His silence was enough. Later that night, I woke to the sound of raised voices. Lucian's study door was half open. You're making a mistake, someone shouted. I decide what's a mistake, Lucian replied, calm but sharp. I moved closer. Through the crack, I saw Luca standing in front of him. You've gone soft, boss. Everyone sees it. That girl, she's blinded you. Lucian's expression didn't change. Careful. It's the truth. You can't lead with your heart. Not here. Lucian stood, his voice low but lethal. You think I forgot what leadership costs? I bleed for this empire. Don't talk to me about weakness. Luca shook his head. Then you'll die for it, and she'll be the reason. Before Lucian could reply, Luca turned and stormed out. When Lucian saw me at the door, he said quietly, You heard. I nodded. He's wrong. Maybe. But he's not the only one thinking it. He poured himself a drink, then looked at me over the rim of the glass. This life eats love alive, Arya. It turns it into leverage, or loss. Then let's get out, I said impulsively. Leave it all behind. You have enough money. We could disappear. He almost smiled. You make it sound easy. Maybe it is. He shook his head. You don't walk away from this. You either win or die in it. I crossed the room, taking his glass and setting it down. Then win. And when you do, let's walk away together. For a long time, he said nothing. Then he whispered, You make me believe that's possible. He kissed me, slow, fierce, desperate, like he was trying to memorize me before the world took me away. That night, as the city thundered outside, we both knew something was coming. The next day, the betrayal arrived. Lucian's convoy was ambushed outside the city. 5 men dead. The attackers had inside information, routes, schedules, codes. Lucian's rage was cold and surgical. He called every lieutenant, every contact, until he found the leak. Luca. He'd sold the convoy locations for money and power. When Lucian's men dragged him into the office, his face was bruised, his lips split, but his eyes were defiant. You made me do this, he spat. You forgot who you are. You let her make you weak. Lucian stood over him, silent. Go ahead, Luca sneered. Finish it. You'll just prove I'm right. Lucian's hand tightened around the gun. For a moment, I thought he'd do it. Then he turned away. Get him out of my sight. Luca laughed bitterly as the guards dragged him away. You're already dead, boss. You just don't know it yet. When the door closed, Lucian collapsed into his chair, burying his face in his hands. I walked to him slowly, resting a hand on his shoulder. You did the right thing. He looked up, eyes hollow. No. I did the weak thing. Mercy isn't weakness. In my world, it is, he said. And it's going to cost me everything. 3 days later, Lucian disappeared. His men wouldn't say where he went. The penthouse felt empty, colder than ever. Every hour stretched into panic. Then, just after midnight, I got a message. Come to the pier. Alone. I didn't hesitate. The air was sharp and salty when I arrived. The pier was quiet except for the sound of waves slapping against the wooden posts. Lucian stood at the edge, coat billowing in the wind, the city lights glinting off the water behind him. You shouldn't have come, he said without turning. I didn't have a choice. He faced me then, and my heart clenched. He looked tired, older, like the weight of his empire had finally crushed something inside him. It's over, he said softly. I'm leaving the city. I blinked. What? I've sold everything. The clubs, the businesses, the routes. I'm burning it all down. Why? He looked past me, into the dark water. Because every time I build something, it turns into a weapon. I thought power could protect me, but all it's done is destroy everyone I care about. I stepped closer. Then don't do it alone. Let me come with you. He shook his head. You don't belong in the shadows, Arya. I belong where you are. He smiled sadly. You say that now. But you haven't seen the worst of me. I've seen enough, I said. And I'm still here. The wind whipped around us, carrying the smell of rain. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small envelope. There's money, a ticket, a new name. Take it. Start fresh. I don't want a new name. I want you. He took a shaky breath. If you come with me, there's no going back. No city, no friends, no safety. Just the road and the ghosts that follow me. Then I'll walk beside your ghosts, I said softly. For a long time, neither of us spoke. Then he stepped forward, closing the space between us. His hand came up to my cheek, thumb brushing away the tear I hadn't realized had fallen. You really would throw everything away for me, he murmured. I already have. He kissed me, slow and deep, the kind of kiss that felt like a promise and a goodbye wrapped into one. When he pulled back, he whispered, I'm not the man you deserve. Maybe not, I said. But you're the one I choose. He closed his eyes, forehead resting against mine. Then we leave at dawn. The next morning, the city woke to rumors. The empire of Lucian Veyro had fallen. His properties were abandoned, his accounts wiped clean, his men vanished. But there were whispers too, whispers of a black car spotted heading north, of a man and a woman crossing the border before sunrise. No one knew where they went. No one dared to follow. Months later, in a quiet coastal town far from the noise and blood of the city, I stood on a balcony watching the waves crash against the rocks. Lucian came up behind me, his arms wrapping around my waist. He still carried the same intensity, but there was something softer in him now, peace, maybe, or the closest thing to it he'd ever find. Do you miss it? I asked. He kissed my shoulder. Power? No. I miss control sometimes. But I don't miss the cost. And what did it cost you? He looked out at the horizon. Everything. Except you. I turned in his arms, smiling faintly. Then maybe you didn't lose after all. He laughed quietly, pulling me close. No. I just finally won the right thing. The waves roared below, endless and wild. Somewhere behind us, the past burned quietly to ash. And as the morning sun broke through the clouds, I knew this was what survival looked like, not power, not wealth, not control. Just peace. Hard-won. Fragile. Real. The kind that doesn't come from escaping the darkness, but from learning to live with it. If you made it this far, you know this story isn't over, not by a long shot. What would you have done in Arya's place? Would you have walked away from the danger, or followed love into the fire? Tell me in the comments below, I read every single one. And if you want to see what happens next, make sure you hit that subscribe button, tap the notification bell, and drop a like to keep this story alive. Because in this world of power, love, and betrayal, the next chapter is always one heartbeat away.